My grandmother, Alice Coltrane, was a legendary pianist, composer, spiritual leader, and the wife of John Coltrane, the most venerated and influential tenor saxophonist in the history of jazz. In the summer of 1963, John and Alice fell in love. They were destined to be on the same sort of musical and spiritual quest and could share this path together. 4 years after they met, John died of liver cancer. John's death left Alice a widow with 4 children. Bereft of her soulmate, I recall my mother describing her suffering sleepless nights and severe weight loss. At her worst, she weighed only 95 pounds. She experienced hallucinations in which trees spoke, various beings existed on astral planes, and the sounds of a planetary ether spun through her brain, knocking her unconscious. The critical event of this period was not that Alice fell into the nadir of her existence, but rather that she experienced tapas, a vital period of trial. These tapas, a Sanskrit term used to describe her suffering, helped to prepare Alice for the spiritual ally she found in Swami Satchidananda, an Indian guru with whom Alice made her first trip to India.
I know there are many people who don't believe in God. To them I say, God is not a human being or a particular entity sitting somewhere in some corner and pulling wires. It's the cosmic consciousness. It is the joy and peace and happiness in you.
On her second trip to India, Alice had a revelation. She was instructed to abandon her secular life and become a spiritual leader in the Hindu tradition. She moved west, eventually opening the Shanti Anantam Ashram in Agora Hills, California. Music was the foundation of Alice's spiritual practice. In the beginning, her music seemed intended to further the musical and spiritual direction of her late husband. But after the loss of my Uncle John Jr., at the age of 17, my grandmother began exploring the use of her voice in her recordings. From the mid-1980s to the mid-1990s, Alice Coltrane self-released 4 brilliant cassette albums. These cassettes contain a music she invented, inspired by the gospel music of the Detroit churches she grew up in, mixed together with the Indian devotional music of her religious practice. Originally only made available through her ashram, they are her most obscure body of work and possibly the greatest reflection of her soul. Like many wives of great men, it is inevitable that the legacy of Alice Coltrane would long be overshadowed by her husband. But the more one examines the genuinely phenomenal life, music, and spirit of Alice, the more destined it is that she will also someday receive her proper due. "10 years after her passing, and what would have been her 80th year, my grandmother, Alice Coltrane, will be celebrated all around the world. I hope you can join us on this journey."
Jai Ram